We are also going to talk about who should compete in speech contests and how to put on a successful club speech contest. If you have ever asked yourself that question, why do we have speech contests? You're not alone. In fact, Dr. Ralph Smedley, the founder of Toastmasters, asked this same question. I'll get back to that in just a minute. First, a brief history. The first Toastmasters contest was in 1931 when the Anaheim Club held a high school public speaking contest. This contest turned out to be so successful that the Toastmasters organization over the next few years began sponsoring these high school public speaking contests. Now, there were other organizations at this time who saw the benefits of these contests, and they started holding their own contests, such as Kiwanis, Rotary Club, etc. Toastmasters decided it didn't make sense for the organization to be duplicating these efforts, and so they stopped holding the contest. However, they do still support high school speech contests, such as the Orange County Academic Decathlon. After this, though, in the following years, the Toastmasters Club started having inter-club contests. In 1938, the first inter-club contest was held at the convention in Tucson, Arizona. The winner of that contest received what they called the Dunlap Cup, and this cup was then passed from winner to winner. This developed into what we know today as the International Speech Contest, where contestants start at the club level. The winners from the club contest compete in area contests. Winners from the area contest compete in division contests. Winners from the division contest compete in the district contest. And from there, it goes to the regional contest, the semifinals, and ultimately a world championship of public speaking finals, the granddaddy of all contests. And over the years, also, other contests were added, such as humorous speech, tall tales, table topics, and evaluation contests, which this year is the second contest that we are doing in Founders District. Going back to Dr. Smedley then, in the late 1950s, apparently, I'm assuming this, but he was laying in bed at night asking himself, why are we having speech contests? He was concerned about the amount of time, resources, and effort that it was taking to put on these contests. He then suggested that the contest should only go up to the regional level, and he preferred that it actually only go to the district level. I understand Dr. Smedley's concern. Contests do take up time, resources, and effort. However, what I think Dr. Smedley was not considering was the benefits that we receive from the contest. I'm going to tell you about the benefits that personally I've experienced, and I bet some of you have experienced these as well. The first benefit is contests are a learning opportunity. I attended my first speech contest in 2005, just months after I joined Toastmasters, and I was amazed that night how much I learned just during that contest. The first thing I learned was the importance of the speech title. I saw that when a contestant had an interesting, intriguing title, it pulled me in. I wanted to hear that speech before the contestant even said a word. And the titles that I liked best were the ones that I didn't quite know what the title meant, but somewhere halfway through the speech, I go, oh, now I get it. That's very clever. And I've tried to do that with my titles ever since. Another thing I saw that night was how the contestants used the stage instead of just meandering around, pacing back and forth the way I was doing. And then I saw the contestants, the way they would connect and engage with the audience. These were all things that I was not learning in my club. This then leads into the next benefit. we have the opportunity in contests to learn from members outside your own club. Think of it this way. In our club, we have a knowledge base. We have some inexperienced members, members with some experience, and then hopefully we have some more experienced members. But our knowledge base is limited to those people. When we go outside the club to the contest, now we expand that knowledge base because we're learning from other people who may have more experience and knowledge than the people in our own club. And that was my situation back when we first started our club. And as you probably know, the higher up you go in the contest, the better the speakers are and the more you can learn. Every year I attend the semifinals and the finals of the World Championship of Public Speaking because I know those are the best of the best and I want to learn from them. And I do every single year. But it's not just the learning that we receive from attending contests. There's also the networking aspect. I believe that most of our members have no idea there is anything that goes on outside the club. They think that's it. It's all there in the club. When we have the contest, it's the opportunity for the members to go outside the club and meet other members from other clubs and share ideas with them and learn from them. We lost that capability over the last 4 years when we had contests online because you can't really network very well online. But now as we start doing hybrid contests again, this benefit is coming back. And it's not just about these learning benefits. There's also in contests the opportunity for leadership training and experience. Putting on any contest takes leaders. And this is the opportunity for our members to develop their leadership skills, practice their leadership skills, make some mistakes doing the contest. And yes, you do make mistakes, but it's better to do them inside Toastmasters rather than outside, maybe on your job. The contests give us an opportunity to identify leaders. When you have a club contest, watch to see who steps up and volunteers to help put on that contest. You'll see those are the leaders or potential leaders in your club. If they are not already club officers, chances are they will be, and encourage them to become club officers. The same is true outside club contests at the district. The district leaders are watching the same way at the area contest, division contest, district contest. Who steps up and volunteers to help? Those are potential future district leaders. I didn't realize this back when I first started working and attending contests. It seems obvious now, but as I volunteered to help first in the area contest, then the division contest, finally the district contest, the district leaders took notice of this and they started talking to me and encouraging me to take on a district leadership role. Okay, I admit I resisted that a lot at first. And I had good reasons. At that time, I was enjoying competing and learning from competing in the contest. And also those contests built up my self-confidence till I finally was able and willing to step in and do the role of area governor. That's what we called it in the olden days. And then secondly, I moved up to a division director. I really believe if it was not for contests, the district leaders never would have known who I was. And they certainly never would have approached me and asked me to become a district officer. Contests offer an opportunity for high-performance leadership projects, often referred to as HPL. If you're not familiar with the high-performance leadership project, this is one of the requirements in many of the paths and pathways. And in the high-performance leadership project, what you do is you have to come up with an idea for a project, something that you can't do on your own because you need to recruit people. Then you lead this team of people through the project. You give a speech before the project and after the project explaining what you learned. It's not easy to come up with these ideas for projects. People struggle with it. This was the major roadblock for me to reach my DTM, was just getting the HPL out of the way. And contests are a great way to perform a high performance leadership project because it's pretty straightforward. It's kind of all right there. And then contests are a way to promote Toastmasters and to recruit new members. I encourage you, when you have your club contest, invite your members to invite their family and friends. If you're in a company that allows it, put up some flyers and invite people from the company to come to the contest, see what Toastmasters is like, but then invite them to come back to another regular meeting so they find out what the rest of the Toastmasters meeting is all about. I know when we get to the higher level at the international convention for the World Championship of Public Speaking, they often have media there from all around the world. And I assume then there are news broadcasts about Toastmasters, which promotes our organization. And finally, maybe this is one of the most important benefits. Contests are just fun. I know when I attended my first contest, I saw how much fun it was, and I want to be a part of that. My first contest was a humorous speech contest, that area contest that I attended. As I sat in the audience that night, listening to all the people around me laughing, I wanted to do that. I said, I want to make people laugh. And that's what inspired me to start competing in the humorous speech contest and led to me competing in other contests. But contests are fun. These are just a few of the benefits that I've experienced. And at this point, we're going to go ahead and open it up. If there are any questions about any of these benefits that I've covered, Daniel's going to talk about the benefits that contestants receive. So we don't want to get into that area and step on his toes. But maybe has anybody seen any other benefits that I might not have touched on? Seeing no hands go up, we will proceed on. Now we've talked about the why. The next is to talk about who should compete in speech contests and why they should compete in these contests. And to do that, we've got a terrific speaker. I'm looking forward to this. I hope you are too. Daniel Midson-Short is a speaker, writer, YouTuber, and a business and marketing consultant for small business owners. Originally from Sydney, Australia, he moved to California over 13 years ago. Daniel has competed in the International Speech Contest 6 times and has won the district championship 5 times. 5 out of 6. He has also competed 4 times as a semifinalist and once as a finalist in the World Championships of Public Speaking. His life goal is to become a world champion of public speaking, and he is determined to keep going until he achieves it. I, for one, am doing everything I can to help Daniel win that championship, because once he wins the championship, he can't compete anymore, and then I don't have to compete against him. I think my fellow competitors want the same for Daniel. Outside of Toastmasters, Daniel delivers keynote speeches at conferences, and he has given 2 TEDx talks. He has a lifelong passion for self-improvement. Today, Daniel will share insights about the value of the speech contest and why it's well worth challenging yourself to compete, no matter how long you have been in Toastmasters. Please help me welcome Daniel Midson-Short.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. And yes, I've heard that many times from people in Founders that they really wish I would win so I can stop being in the way. And I appreciate that. It's a very kind thing, but it hasn't happened yet. We will get there eventually, someday. But I am definitely a seasoned competitor at this point. I've been around for 11 years in Toastmasters, and my second year I was tricked into competing in the humorous speech contest at the club level by a good friend of mine who was the president at the time. And he said, "Oh, you should compete in the humorous contest." And I said, "Okay." And so I did. And lo and behold, I won that contest and thought, "That's that done." Nope. I had to compete at the next level, which was the area. And then somehow I won that level. And then I discovered the division. I had to compete at that level. And on it went to the district. And then finally, when I accidentally somehow won the district contest, I was told, "Your reward is you don't have to compete anymore." And then I learned about this mysterious thing called the International Speech Contest. Met a couple of the world champions, and they said, "Sure, sure, you can go for it. Yeah, definitely." And that was the beginning of this ridiculous quest that I've been on for many years. That sometimes I regret starting, but as I mentioned there, we will not stop until we get there. But we're going to talk today about who should compete. Why should you compete and be part of this crazy world of speech contests? After all, it's not for everyone, I don't think, and I'm going to explain that. But if you do choose to do it, you get a lot of benefits, which some David has already alluded to. So I'm going to share what I have learned and what has helped me. So let's talk about who should compete in a speech contest. Now, you might have heard the common wisdom is that everyone should compete. You've probably heard that in your club. Well, if you're a member, you should compete. Why not? Well, I actually disagree with that. I don't think everyone should compete in a speech contest. And I'm going to explain why, because it's not for everyone. It depends on your personality, depends on your life stage, it depends on your desires as a speaker. And the reality is that for you to compete in a speech contest, it takes a lot of things. And especially as you go through the ranks as a competitor, if you keep progressing and you keep winning, the higher you go, the more of this it takes. And these are the things that I have learned that it requires to be a speech contestant, even at the club level. It takes time. You have to invest time in thinking about the speech. You have to invest time practicing. You have to show up to the club and deliver the speech. It takes effort and energy. You have to put in more work than just not delivering a speech. It's much easier to sit back and not compete. It takes effort and energy to do it. It takes focus. If you go through different levels of the contest, you have to keep thinking about how can I improve? How can I refine what I'm doing? What can I do to get better at the next level? And you have to really focus and plan for that. It takes strategy. As you go up through the levels, you'll have a lot of people wanting to help you and giving you feedback. Some of it's valuable, some of it's not. But you have to plan out what you're going to listen to and how you're going to create a better version of your speech. And finally, the one that I've learned the most is that it takes a lot of persistence. I'm sure David would agree too. You have to keep coming back year after year if you want to get to the top. Some people do it in 1 year, and bless those people. I love them. But for most of us, it takes much more than one time to get to the top of the speech contest heap, if you like. And there are some benefits to that actually if you take longer, I believe. So these are the things that it takes. And for this reason, that's why I say I don't think everyone should compete, because frankly, not everyone is going to put in the time, the effort, have the focus, make the effort to plan properly, and have the persistence. But if you're here today and you're a person who's considering it, I would suggest that you probably have what it takes. So rather than just pushing everyone in the club to become a contestant, look for the people who you think display some of these already. Are they already wanting to grow? Are they showing up consistently to meetings? Are they delivering speeches? Are they wanting to get better with every speech, taking on feedback from the evaluations? Those are the types of people that should be part of a speech contest and who are going to get the most out of it. So that's something to consider about who I believe should compete. And it raises the bar every year. If people keep putting in the effort and the focus and the time and persisting, the quality of the contests get better. And it shows to the world what we can do as public speakers. So that's why I say it's not for everyone, but it is for those who make the effort. The next thing I'd love to talk with you about is what I believe the real reasons you should compete are. So this kind of leads back to what David said about the benefits. What are some of the benefits or the real reasons why you should compete in a speech contest? And I believe that there are three that can really move you forward if you work on them. And if you compete, you'll get a lot of these benefits starting to happen. The first one is that you will move out of your comfort zone. So all of us at some stage went to Toastmasters and we were terrified. and we weren't sure what would happen, but slowly we get comfortable with our club. We start to know everyone's faces. We know that we're not going to die if we get up and deliver a speech. We're okay. But that becomes the new kind of bubble, the new comfort zone that we live in. And we have to start to extend it if we want to keep growing and developing as speakers. And this is really a good analogy for it. If you think about it, the closer you get to the edge of the cliff, the better the view is, but also it's more terrifying. And this is a good representation of what it's like going into a speech contest. Most people won't push themselves out on the edge. They won't keep challenging themselves and finding ways to become uncomfortable. They'll just stay in their little bubble. And you probably have people in your club who are just like that. They're decent speakers who stay inside the club. But those who really want to grow professionally and personally, they're the ones who go out on the edge and get out of their comfort zone. And that's something that I have noticed. The benefit of the speech contest is there's no safety net because you're putting yourself out there, you're competing for the position of the winner, and also you're speaking to different audiences. So it's a learning opportunity, to David's point, but it also challenges you to push yourself further. So that's the first one. The second reason or benefit why I think it's important to compete in speech contests is that it teaches you the mechanics or the technical parts of speaking. And I use this metaphor of a motor inside of a car, if you think about it. If you take out certain parts of this motor, it will no longer work. It will just be useless. And speeches are very similar as well. If you don't have a good opening and close, if you don't have good gestures, if you don't have good pausing, good voice tone, good vocabulary, all those different things. If you don't have all those components, those pieces working for you, the speech won't work. And it's the same with a motor in a car. What I've noticed when you start to compete in speech contests, you think much more objectively about your speech and the skills and the tactical elements of it that you need. You start to look at the speech from different angles. You get different feedback. Also, the other benefit is that you go back to that speech several times. If you go through the levels of the contest, what you start with at the club, by the time you get through to, say, the division or the district, it's a very different speech because you fine-tuned it like people tune a motor. So if you think about it as a mechanics or a technical thing, it changes the way you perceive your speaking. It's not just this thing you stand up and do, it's something that you work on piece by piece. And you'll notice if you see the same competitors come back year after year, they get better at the mechanics, the little things, piece by piece. And that's what you have to do. That's what I believe is another hidden benefit of being a speech contestant. And the third one is the character, building your character. And I use this as this image I thought displays it, because you have the guy there in green who thinks he's going to win the contest. He's in the lead. He's just about to cross the finish line. And guess what? Someone's coming up behind him and they're going to take the trophy. And he's going to have to stand there on the stage and grin in second place and act like he's happy, when on the inside he's just like, why didn't I win? I can't believe this. And we've all been through that as competitors. All of us have had to suck it up, smile, and come back next time. And that really develops your character. Trust me. It's very rare as adults that we actually put ourselves in an uncomfortable position or in a position where we might lose. Most of us set up our lives where we actually are comfortable and we do things only that we're good at. So if you think about it, a speech contest is a place where you're risking not being good. And this is really the character building part of what we do. Most of the time in our lives, the most challenging things, the failures, the setbacks, the disappointments, they're the things that build our character when you think about it. And it's the same with a speech contest. You put yourself in the line of fire of potentially losing, but you get a huge benefit of character. So these three things, I believe, are the real reasons to compete. Getting out of your comfort zone, putting yourself out on the edge, outside of your familiar territory with your club members, meeting new people. The second is you're going to improve your technical skills or your mechanical skills about speaking. Makes you think about the speech differently than you ever have, and your skills as a speaker get better a lot quicker. And then the third is that it builds your character. You become a better person because you keep persisting and you keep pushing yourself. The last thing that I want to talk about today, well, actually the second last thing, is 3 growth mindsets. And this is just something I've become aware of over the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years competing. Because when I started off in the speech contest, I sort of thought I had it all figured out. And I thought, oh, I'm going to win this in one go. This is easy, no problem. Well, I was very quickly humbled and I realized that there's a lot to learn. So these growth mindsets have really helped me. And they've helped me in other parts of my life, professionally and personally, in a lot of different ways. So I'm going to share them with you and hopefully they resonate for you. The first growth mindset, which can be a bit confronting, is to realize that you're not that good. Very often, if we are one of the better speakers in our home club, we will start to think, oh, yeah, I'm a pretty good speaker. You might go to work and you might speak compared to your boss or a peer or someone like that. And because you've been going to Toastmasters, you're actually a decent speaker at work comparatively to those people. But in reality, you're actually not that good. In the real world of speaking, in keynote speaking or on the TEDx stage or in the World Championship of Public Speaking, you have a lot to learn. But you will never know that if you just stay inside your comfort zone and the safety of the people that you're around. So the reality is that you're probably not as good as you think, even though everyone in your club says, that was an excellent speech, you're amazing. And if you're hearing that a lot of the time, that's a good sign that you need to get outside the regular speaking environment and push yourself, because you'll realize you're not that good and there's a lot of work you need to do. This was the first lesson I learned in 2014. When I got to the semi-final level, I thought, this is going to be easy, until I saw the other speakers in the semi-final and I said, Daniel, you're not that good. And I had to go back to the drawing board and I had to learn more and keep working at it for many years to come. So that helped me to grow when I finally admitted that there's work to do. The second is that the judges got it right. Now, if you've ever been in a speech contest and someone's come up to you and said, I can't believe this judging, what were they thinking? You might have even said it yourself, I should have been the winner. You are disadvantaging yourself. You are disabling your ability to grow. The judges got it right. They figured out on the day who were the most compelling, the best speakers based on the ballot, and they were the ones who chose it and they got it right. And there's something in that that you can learn, but you have to let go of this idea that the judges are idiots or they got it wrong or they don't know what they're talking about. They got it right. And if you say that to yourself, you say, okay, the judges got it right. What do I need to learn? You'll learn a lot quicker. It's humbling and it's tough to admit, but the judges got it right on the day. And overall, if you look at all the judges comparatively, they all chose the same thing for a reason. You have to figure out what it is. I wish they would tell you. I wish you could get feedback directly, but that's not how it works. But if you think in that way that the judges got it right, you will change. And the last lesson is that the skill is the success. And this is a really crucial one to remember, because sometimes we think that the trophy is the success. If I win the title or if I get the highest level or whatever, I'm suddenly a success. The truth is that the ability to speak, to stand on your feet and speak coherently, that is the success. That's the skill that you have developed is actually the reward. That's the benefit to you in life. And most of you, I'm sure, as Toastmasters have noticed this. You can speak at a wedding, you can speak at a funeral, you can give a presentation at work, you can lead a group of people a lot better because you have this skill. And my friend, that is the success at the end of the day, not a trophy. I have a cupboard full of trophies behind me and nobody cares. What people care about is my ability and the skill to use it in real life. So these three mindsets, if you can adapt your brain to think in these ways, it's tough, but I promise you, you will grow a lot faster than I did. And it's taken me almost 11 years to get to the point where I've started to understand these things. The very last thing that I want to share with you, and I was thinking about this the other day. I love to look up the etymology of words and their meanings. And the word compete, if you look it up, it actually comes from two words in Latin. It comes from the word com, which means together, and the word petir, I think is how you say it, which means aim at or to seek. And so if you put those two words together, they actually mean to grow together. So to compete in a speech contest means that we all get to grow together. Yes, one of us will walk away with the trophy and the accolades, and the rest of us will have to smile and pretend we're happy. But I guarantee you, if you walk away, you will actually grow from being a competitor and being part of the speech contest. So my friends, if that sounds appealing to you, I would challenge you over the next year to get in the ring and let's all keep growing together. And with that, I'll pass back to David. And if there's any questions, we can go through that together.
Thank you, Daniel. There's so much wisdom there in what you say. Let's open it up. If anybody has any questions for Daniel, go ahead and either raise your hand virtually or since most of you don't have your video on, I guess that's the best way to do it. Raise your virtual hand. It's down at the bottom. If you're not familiar with Zoom, there's a little icon there that says raise hand, and it'll put a virtual hand up.
Yep. Or you can type a question in the chat if you want. I think the chat's over on the right somewhere.
Right.
It might be hidden actually, but yeah, if anyone has a question, we can answer them, or we can move on to the next section and answer them at the end too, if we like, David.
One of the questions, actually, Daniel, this is my chance to ask you questions.
Of course, yeah.
And I completely agree with that, that the first step there is you're not that good. But how do you overcome, though? There are the people who say, well, I'm just not that good. I'm not going to try.
It's a great question. Yeah, I would think it would go back to what I was saying. If you observe in the club their behavior, that they're coming back consistently, they're going through the speeches. We used to have the speech manual, but now it's the different pathway speeches. So they're progressing through that. They're asking for feedback. They're taking it on. And if that behavior is showing that consistency, I think they are the people who would be potentially better speakers. And I'm talking about obviously at a higher level. That's the tough thing. Like when you start to get to the higher levels, like whether it's the division, the district, the semi-final levels, that's where you start to realize, oh, I'm not that good. There's other people who know what they're doing much better than I do. The trap is that you actually go the other way and you stay in your club. And we all see this a lot. We have people in our clubs who think they're great speakers, who have been there for whatever, 10, 15, 20 years, who probably aren't that good in reality, but they've stuck to that little model and that safety zone. And so that's what I'm speaking to there is, and I've seen that a lot in contests where, especially at the semi-final level, there's a lot of people who their district might not be necessarily a very big district. And so they get to the semi-finals, or they used to, quite easily. And they'd have this sort of arrogance about them of, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing, until the speech contest would start. And then suddenly, oh, okay. But yeah, I would say just look at the behavior that you're displaying in the club. And if you're showing up, if you're being consistent, you're growing and you're asking for evaluation feedback and you're coming back consistently, then you are good enough to compete. And you may not win, but that's okay. At least you went for it and you grow as a person as a result.
Thank you. I think the other part of that then is also then when you do take that first step and you realize you're not that good, that first time you get knocked down is when that character building starts, that you have to realize, okay, I can get back up and try this again, rather than just saying, okay, I'm not that good. And you go back to the club to where, okay, now I'm pretty good here. And you don't want to take that chance
exactly.
again.
Yeah, but you'll notice a difference when you go back to your club after you've competed in a couple of rounds of the contest. You're a better speaker again, and that's what I noticed. So that was how I advanced quicker, was continuing to keep going back and working on my speeches, and then competing again the next year and the next year, for sure. And you've been the same too, I know.
Right,
Kathy,
and that's
do you
like
have a? Okay, go ahead, David.
I do have a question, and I just was thinking about, again, that subject of you're not that good, and the feedback that we get from well-intentioned members of our clubs that say, how fabulous our speech was and room for improvement. Can't even think of a thing. It was
exactly.
And it doesn't do us any good. And I love that we're doing evaluation speech contest as our second contest this year, because it's an art. You do not help somebody by not telling them the areas, the room for improvement. And it makes me think, if you want to be a competitor, and I think I was interested in your response on that, should you have a coach that is somebody that gives you the feedback that has some weight behind it?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the only caveat with having a coach is make sure that they have walked the path before you. So I've noticed that there's a lot of people who wanted to coach me on speech contests, and they hadn't been at the levels I'd been at. And I'm like, well, how do I know that I can trust your judgment? Because they haven't walked that path. So if you're going to have someone who's going to coach you, they definitely should have been a contestant. Not that they had to have won, but they had to have put their hat in the ring. They have to have actually shown that they're willing to compete as well. Because there's a lot of armchair coaches and critics, people who'll be like, oh, you should change this or do this. And you're like, and you always got to be polite and take it on, but there's a difference in the coaching quality. And, I've shared with you, many of you in the past, that it took me many years to get the world champions to actually coach me, and I had to pay for their coaching, that kind of thing. And the first thing they said was, this speech isn't good enough. You got to work on it. And I'm like, oh, and because in my club, all I'm hearing is, this is the greatest speech ever, Daniel. And so I had to go to a higher level from people who'd walked that path before me. And that did make me a better speaker. It made me angry at some point. I'm like, hey, I'm not coming here to be beaten up, but sometimes you need that if you seriously want to get better. And it's not for everyone. Again, it takes persistence and courage and guts to put yourself out. And that's why I was saying it builds character, because very quickly you realize, I got a lot of work to do, and this is not an easy journey.
So true. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah.
Are there any other questions before we move on? Seeing none, we will move on. We have now talked about the why and the who of speech contests, and now we're going to talk about how to put on a successful club speech contest. There are many details that go into putting on a club speech contest, and I don't have time to go into all of them, so I'm going to give you a broad outline to use for putting on your club speech contest. I like to call these the 4 P's: planning, promotion, preparation, and performance. Any successful contest is going to start with planning, and the earlier the better. If you are not already planning for the 2024 speech contest, now is the time to start. The sooner you do this, the better, the easier it becomes. One of the first things to do is to select a contest chair. The Vice President of Education in the club is responsible overall for contests, but it doesn't mean that they have to put on the contest, do all the work themselves, and they should not. The Vice President of Education should find a contest chair. This goes back to that benefit I was talking about. Find a member who needs to do a high-performance leadership project. Talk to them about this as an opportunity to complete your high-performance leadership project. Then it becomes a win-win. That person gets credit for completing their HPL, and your club gets a contest. Don't worry that you have to create everything all on your own, starting from scratch. There are many resources out there to help you with contests. Starting with the Founders District website. Julie Murphy, our past district director, has been working diligently on improving our Founders District website. And one of the things that she has added is a speech contest page, which has a lot of resources you can use for your club speech contest. And then there is the Toastmasters International website, which has even more resources to help you. And one of the things I'm going to talk about a little bit here are the speech contest kits. They're called kits, and they're really, for each contest, it's a zip file that contains all of the documents you need to put on the contest: the judges' ballots, the timing sheet, the tally sheet, certificates of appreciation, the awards, the rule book. All of those documents are there for each contest. I'll show you a little bit more about that in a minute here. This is the Founders District website. It's foundersdistrict.org. And when you go to the main page there, on the menu options, there's resources and a drop down with speech contests. Click on that, and it takes you to this page, which has links to other resources that you are going to need. The first one here is the area and division contest schedule. I'm going to talk about scheduling your contest in a minute. So it's important to know this link. So at least this is for Founders District. I know we have some people from other districts. You may have to contact your area director to find out when is your area contest. The next link is to the contest rule book. Everyone who's planning to compete or going to be part of participating as a functionary in a contest should read the rule book, but specifically the contest chair, chief judge, and the contestants all need to read the rule book, not only so they understand the rules, but also because at the end of that rule book, there's a checklist for each of those roles: contest chair, chief judge, and the contestants. And it tells you what to do before, during, and after the contest. There's a link here to the Toastmasters International webpage where there is information about speech contests. And then there's a link here to hybrid contest best practices. If you're planning to do a hybrid contest, you need to read this document. This link will take you there. And finally, there's some frequently asked questions about speech contests. When you click on this link from the Founders District website for Toastmasters International contest resources, it takes you to toastmasters.org/resources/speech-contests. And on this page, you can see again, there's even more information about speech contests. Some things are duplicated here for frequently asked questions, etc. But when you scroll down, this is where you'll find the contest kits that I was talking about. And there's one for each: international, humorous, evaluation. You scroll down, there are the other ones. These are a link to take you to a page where you can download a PDF file that, again, has all those documents you need, so you don't have to create everything from scratch. Next step in planning is to decide on the contest format. Up until 2020, this was easy. Almost all clubs are meeting in person, so the format was going to be an in-person contest. Now we have to deal with, you could have a virtual contest, you can have an in-person contest, or you can have a hybrid contest. There are pros and cons to each of these that I'm not going to go into, but do keep in mind that, at least here in Founders District, all of the district contests, area, division, district, and even on beyond that, will be hybrid contests. This means that a contestant can choose to compete either in person or online. If you are currently doing hybrid meetings, I would suggest have your contest at one of those hybrid meetings. That gives the contestants an opportunity to compete in the way they would compete at the area contest, either in person or online. If you're not already doing hybrid meetings, though, this is not the time to start right before a contest, because it just adds more complications. The next step is to pick the date. And there's a couple things to look at here in picking the date for your contest. And one of these is to understand and find out, when is the area contest? That goes back to Founders District. Look at that schedule. Find out when your area contest is for your club. And then plan the club contest 2 to 3 meetings before that. I'd say weeks if you're doing it weekly, but 2 to 3 meetings before the area contest. The reason for that is, in my home club, B-Bron, what we do is we have the contest at least 3 weeks before the area contest. Then we have weekly meetings. So the following meeting, the winner of the contest has the opportunity to practice their speech. They get feedback from their fellow members, and then they still have another week or so to improve their speech before the area. The other thing to consider is whether you're going to need to do 2 meetings, or you can do 2 contests in 1 meeting. As I mentioned, in Founders District this year, we are doing international speech and the evaluation speech contest. What I found in B-Bron, my club meets for 1 hour weekly. And in the past, I found we could do 4 contestants spread across the 2 contests. We could do that all in 1 meeting. But oh boy, it was hectic, it was rushed, I was stressed out by the end of the meeting. So I kind of come up with this rule of thumb that if we have 4 or more contestants spread out in the 2 contests, then I break it out into 2 meetings. One contest at 1 meeting, the second contest at the other meeting. If we have 3 or fewer, then we can do both contests in 1 meeting. For my other club, Second Stage, we have a 2-hour meeting on Saturdays. And we found there we can always have both contests in that 1 2-hour meeting. It's up to you. Again, look at your club. How long does your club meet, and how many contestants will you have in the contest? Next up is to determine which functionaries you need. In the rulebook, it states you would have a contest chair, chief judge, at least 5 judges, a tie-breaking judge, 2 counters, and 2 timers. But it does add where realistic, meaning that in some cases, your club may not have enough members who are going to be at the contest to fill all of these roles. And in that case, it's okay to maybe combine some of these or have not the number that's specified here. I've had contests in Bebron where we had a limited number of members, so we just had one ballot counter, and the ballot counter worked with the chief judge to count the ballots so they could double check each other. I've also had contests where we only had one timer. The only problem with that is it's risky because if that timer has a problem, there's no backup timer going on at that same time. But it is doable. For the judges, there's a couple ways of doing judges. In my home club, Bebron, we have all of the members who are present at the contest and not competing. They are the judges. And I like to do it this way because it gives our members a chance to practice being a judge and learn what it's like to judge. It also makes everyone involved in the contest so they feel like they're a part of it. On the other hand, that second stage, we've done it both ways. Sometimes we've done it like that. Sometimes the chief judge has selected at least 5 judges and they were anonymous as much as possible. It's up to you to decide how you want to do that in your club. Some of this goes together while you're doing this planning. You also want to start promoting the contest. And first thing is, once you have the date and the format, announce the contest so members can start thinking about if they want to compete or not. Send out a call for the contestants. Do this as early as possible because you want to, again, find out how many contestants you are going to have in order to figure out the timing of your contest. And then you want to build excitement in the club. Start promoting it in the club. Send out some emails. Talk about it in your club. If you're going to promote it outside your club, you might want to then start encouraging the members to invite their family and friends. As I mentioned too, if you're a company club and the company allows it, put up some flyers to have some people come and watch the contest. In a community club, you can find places where you could put up flyers to have people come to your contest. Preparation, this is also going on a little bit while you're doing the planning and the promotion. And the first thing to do is to recruit those functionaries that I've talked about. I found it's not enough to just send out an email and say, okay, here's what we need for the club. Please volunteer. Let me know which role you want to fill. I found that doesn't work very well, and I discovered it the hard way when I was an area governor. I planned the functionaries that I needed. I sent out emails to all of the clubs in my area asking for volunteers. I was expecting, oh, I'll be flooded with volunteers. I heard crickets, nothing. And now it's getting closer and closer to the contest day, and I'm frantically freaking out, thinking, what am I going to do? And then I started calling people or talking to people in my club one-on-one and saying, hey, I need your help. Could you be my timer at the area contest? And invariably, people would say, oh, sure, I'd be happy to do that. We are in a volunteer organization, but people need to often be asked before they will volunteer. And then they're happy to do it. You also want to recruit your test speaker. If you're not familiar with an evaluation contest, the way that works is we have a test speaker. At the beginning of the contest, they give a 5 to 7 minute speech. Contestants are in the room listening to this speech. They're taking notes. At the end of that speech, the contestants are taken out of the room where they have 5 minutes to prepare their evaluation. They are then brought back into the room one at a time, and they give their 2 to 3 minute evaluation. The judges are in the audience and they judge each evaluator. It's important, I think, to try to recruit the test speaker from outside the club, if possible. The reason I say that is it levels the playing field for all the contestants, because if you have a test speaker from within the club, some of your members may have heard this speaker many times. They already have a good idea about what this person can improve on and what they need to work on. Whereas new members, maybe they haven't heard this person at all. Therefore, if you bring someone in from outside the club, it's probably going to be somebody that most people have not heard before. The way to do this is to contact another club and propose an exchange. You send someone from your club to be test speaker at their contest. They send someone from their club to be the test speaker at your club contest. You do, however, want to make sure you have a backup plan. One person needs to be prepared to fill in on short notice as the test speaker in case that person from outside can't make it on the day of the contest. There are some considerations and preparation if you are doing either a virtual or a hybrid contest. You need to understand how to use the breakout rooms on Zoom. And you need to make sure that you have the authorization, the ability to create and manage breakout rooms on Zoom. This may depend on the account that you have. The reason for this is, as I mentioned, the evaluation contest, you have to move the contestants out of the room. If they are virtual, you move them to a breakout room. You need to be able to understand how you move contestants in the breakout room. Then, after that 5 minutes, you have to know how to bring them back into the main room, one at a time. You can't just close that breakout room because all the contestants are coming back in the main room. You've got to keep the contestants in the breakout room. You need to do this hybrid or virtual because you may have some contestants that are online. This is if you have any online contestants. I'm not familiar with some of the other platforms like Teams, other ones like that. So if you're using something like that for your meetings, you need to find out what are the capabilities there that are similar to breakout rooms. For in-person or hybrid contests, you need to locate a room outside of your main room. At BBRON, we meet in a conference room, and we would then escort the contestants out to a sitting area that's outside the conference room where they could do their preparation for their evaluation. Again, if it's hybrid, then you're going to have to deal with both of these. You may have some contestants online, you have to move in the breakout room. Other contestants in person, you're going to have to move them outside of the physical room. Prepare how you are going to do that ahead of time. You're not scrambling to do that at the contest. And then train the functionaries. You need to make sure that the ballot counters know how to use the tally sheet when they're tallying up the votes on the ballots. Train the timers so they understand the timing sheet, they understand the timing rules. If they are doing the timing online, they need to make sure they have the virtual backgrounds that they're going to need. If they're in person, you want to make sure they understand how to use the timing lights in person. Verify contestant eligibility is important because a contestant to compete in a contest at your club must be eligible at that time, meaning they must be current in their dues to Toastmasters International. Otherwise, they are not eligible to compete, even in your club contest. And then you want to make sure that they are planning to continue paying their dues, so when they get to the area contest, if they go further, division and on, they still have to be eligible at each step of the contest. Also, for the international speech only, contestants must have already completed level 2 in any path or be a distinguished Toastmaster. That's only required for the international speech contest. Any other speech contest, they can be a brand new member just starting out in Pathways or whatever. Then you hold a contestant briefing. Since we went virtual, we've started having these contestant briefings virtual. And this is good because then it's pretty easy to schedule the contestant briefing online before the day of the contest. So you can get this out of the way. You don't have to scramble to do it right before the contest is about to start. At that contestant briefing, the contest chair will go over the rules, including the timing rules, is real important. Make sure the contestants know, do not go overtime. I'm telling myself that as much as anybody else because I'm in danger often of doing that. If a contestant goes overtime and they're disqualified in your club contest and they are the winner, they're not allowed to go to the area contest. Make sure your contestants stay on time. The other thing to do at the contestant briefing is to draw for the speaking order. The good way to do this online, we've started using what's called the Wheel of Names. It's actually a website called wheelofnames.com. It's easy to use. You simply type in each contestant's name, and it then puts them on a wheel. Looks like the Wheel of Fortune. You click on it, and it spins around, and it lands on a name. That's contestant number 1. You write that name down. That name's removed from the wheel. It spins again, stops on another name. Write that down. That's contestant 2. And you do that all the way through all the contestants. Put all of the contestants' names on that wheel, whether they are at the briefing or not. If they are not there at the contestant briefing, you still put them on, and you find out when the wheel spins what their number is. If they show up on the day of the contest in time, you tell them what their speaking number is. If they don't show up, everyone moves up 1 slot. The same thing if you are doing the briefing in person. Again, you need to do it before the contest starts. Go through these same things. Here, when you do the drawing for speaking order, keep it simple. Just write numbers on pieces of paper and let the contestants draw a piece of paper. That is their speaking order number. Again, put a piece of paper in with a number for all contestants, whether they are at the briefing or not. If they're not at the briefing after all the other contestants have drawn, then you would draw the number for those contestants. Whatever number comes up, that's their speaking position. This eliminates a whole lot of confusion if a contestant shows up and they don't have a speaking position. And then there's the judge's briefing. This is done by the chief judge. You want to do this in advance of the contest, if at all possible. For my home club, as I mentioned, we have all the members who are not competing as judges. And what we do is at the start of the contest, the chief judge gets up and gives a quick overview of the ballot, how to fill out the ballot for the judges. And then finally, you are ready for that big day, putting on the contest. Main thing here is just stay calm, work through it, and as much as possible, try to run it like an area contest. I say as much as possible because there may be some things that you can't quite do the same way as the area contest. You do need to follow all the rules in the rule book, but there may be some things that are not quite the same. With that, I am going to stop sharing and ask if there are any questions. I know I covered a lot of information there. Any questions about putting on a speech contest? You can raise your virtual hand if you have a question. Okay, I'm assuming then everyone is an expert now and knows how to put on. Sophia, don't shake your head. You're going to be doing it probably for the second stage.
I mean,
Yes,
for
Kathy.
the evaluation. Oh, sorry.
Kathy, did you have a question?
There was a comment in the chat from Diana D.
Oh, okay. Let me take a look there. Yes, good point, Dr. D. Thank you. Not only are your contestants needing to be eligible, but your club needs to be eligible. This is pretty easy for your club contest because we're doing it now, assuming your club is eligible, club in good standing right now. But where this becomes tricky is we're going to have a dues renewal period in March before April, and the area contests are, I'm talking Founders District now, area contests are in March. The division contests, however, are in April, which means your club has to make sure get your dues renewal in early for at least 8 people, so your club is a club in good standing. Then your contestant will be a member in good standing. That's one of the worst things you don't want is you got a great contestant, they're ready to go, they won the area. They're going to go to the division contest. And then suddenly your club is not a club in good standing because you don't have 8 members. They can't compete in the division contest, and that's a real shame. Yes, Malind, you have your hand up. Malind, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Or was that from before?
No, sorry. Yeah, I had a little. Yeah, thanks. I think it's very informative. I would request you to clarify regarding if you are going to be contesting in, let's say, for the post of a division director or whatever, in the coming election season. What are the eligibility criteria, whether you can compete in a contest or not? If you could give us some tips on that, that would be useful also.
Yes, and we do have some experts here, so I'm sure Dr. D will correct me if I'm wrong on this, but let me try and see if I get this right. In order to compete in a contest, you cannot have announced that you are running for one of the elected offices, meaning a division director or any of the club growth director, program quality director, district director, any of the elected positions. They've kind of clarified this, I think maybe just this year or last year, that if it is an appointed position, you can actually compete. So if you are trying to be an area director, you could still go ahead and compete. The idea is for an elected office, you don't want someone getting maybe an advantage because in the contest, people are seeing them compete and they're going, oh, I like that person. He's a really good competitor. I'm going to vote for him for this office. I think that is the reasoning behind that. Kathy, did I get that right or was I wrong?
You are right, but with clarification on the area director, the reason that wouldn't be a problem in the term preceding their becoming an area director is they're really not appointed yet during the contest season. They're appointed after the election occurs of the division directors, and that's after the contests.
Right. Good point.
Thanks for the.
And Jean, you're raising a point. I see that in the chat section. Where can the contest chairs get help personally in addition to the resource website? Are you talking, I'm assuming, the contest chairs? I mean the club contest chair.
Yes.
So there's a couple places. One, if hopefully they're in a club, the vice president of education who's responsible for contests, hopefully they already have some ideas about the contest. They've read the rule book. They can help the contest chair. But the next place to go to would be, I would say, go to your area director and ask them for some help. Do you have some questions on that? Invite your area directors too to come to the contest. That's kind of a good way. They can do it. They don't want to do that as their club visit officially, but it's a good way for them to come in and get to know people in the club. So invite the area director. You could even invite your division director. Invite the trio. Invite everybody to come to your club contest.
Right. And invite us to the contests. And if you need a functionary that's outside of the club, that might be your answer. I
was just going to say, yes, there's another opportunity for getting a functionary. Going back to what I said before, though, it's better not just send out an email to all of them and say, oh, hey, would you like to approach them and say, Gene, I'm having my contest on this date. Would you like to attend? Oh, and by the way, could you be the timer? Gene will say, oh, yes, I'm happy to do that.
I'm happy to do that.
Any other questions? Yes, Gene.
I have a go back to Daniel's section.
Oh, yes.
If that's
fine.
okay. And that
Sure.
is when you put up the slide about compete coming from growing together. And I thought that was excellent. you didn't really talk too much about your personal experiences and the people that you met on your journey. And I thought if you had a great story about a personal experience in one of these many trips up to up to the top there. I know that you've met a lot of people along the way, and I thought maybe you'd just share with us maybe one or two stories.
Yeah, I mean, the one that stands out the most is my friendship with Aaron Beverly, who is the 2019 world champion of public speaking. He and I met in 2014. We were in the same round of the semifinals. Both of us were thinking we were going to win, of course. Both of us did not win. And so we hung out after that contest. And then we saw each other, I believe, in 2016. I was in Washington, D.C. I didn't compete that year, but he did. And he made it to the finals. So he came second in the world, which was amazing. 2017, he and I both competed again. He didn't place in the semifinals, and so he had a tough year. 2018, he didn't place in the district, and I came second at my district. So we went through the highs and lows together, and all the while we were just both saying we're both going to do this, we're both going to do this. So in 2019, we basically began the journey together from the club all the way through, and we both made it to the finals of the World Championships together. And he won that year, and I was sitting there right next to him because he has this habit of not watching the other speeches. It stresses him out too much. So he will go behind the stage and put his headphones in and just listen to music until he speaks, and then he'll go back. And so he doesn't know how he's doing comparatively to the other speakers, whereas I'd like to actually see the other speakers and get a feel for what's happening in the room. So he had no idea if he was going to win or not, but I knew he was going to win. And so it was just such a wonderful moment to be there and to watch him, and just the joy of him achieving the goal. Of course, I wanted to win too, but I know my time will come, and now he's in my corner every year. So he and I work very closely together, and we were actually just talking yesterday about next year's contest and the strategy. And so that's the perfect example I can think of growing together. Is that we've both been on this journey, and we got to hang out he came to the Bahamas for one day, and we got to hang out and have a few drinks, and it was fun. So it's a lot of fun. So that to me that's the true reward, is being able to share the journey. And David and I for many years have competed with each other and shared stories and ideas as well. And so there's so many stories of that experience. But I know the one with Aaron's special because we've gone through so many years together, and to see him complete the goal. The funniest thing is often now he will say to me, because he cannot compete anymore, he'll say, man, I'm so jealous. I wish I could compete like you. And I say, it's ironic because he's achieved the goal I want, and now I'm actually able to do something he can't do anymore. So it's
Right.
quite a funny dichotomy in a way. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very important part of the whole competition. And like you said, you and David, even David Moore, are constantly sharing ideas and strategies, and a little friendly rivalry that goes on between you and the other competitors as you're going up, even to district. So it's just fun watching the competitors do that, and the relationships that form that way. And I just wanted you to share a little bit of that, because that's something you may not really even think about as you start this journey.
No, not at all. No, it's surprising. You never know who you'll meet and who you'll be in which contest with, and it does bond you together for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great experience. For sure. Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
nothing like the excitement and the energy at the semifinals and the final of the World Championship of Public Speaking. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is. It's really amazing.
Thanks. Thank you for that, Daniel.
Of course.
Any other questions? Okay, then if you think of any questions, feel free to email me. This is my email address, dam92602@gmail.com. If you had a question for Daniel too, I'd be happy to pass it along to him. I know he would be happy to reply as well.
Yes.
I do hope that everyone now understands the benefits of why we have the contest, who should compete in contests, and then how to put on a contest. Hopefully now you are excited about putting on your club contest. And now it is time to run that race. To do that, you need to get ready, start planning now, and then get set, do your promotion and your preparation, and then go put on your contest. And all along the way, remember, have fun with it.
Mhm.
Contests are fun. With that, I hope you enjoyed the presentation today. Enjoy the rest of your day.